This is Karen with newclevelandradio.net, and it is time for Heart Mojo with Melinda Smith. And Melinda, you have another great guest for us, so
I
give us some
do. We
insight.
well, we haven't been on for a while, so you had your things, I had my things with my mom. So we took a little time off, but hopefully y'all are coming back to hear this month's podcast because we have amazing people. And one of those amazing people is Nancy Patrizzi Abraham. How are you? Thank you for being
Good,
here.
good. It's great to be here.
So I wanted to have you on because I know a lot of people in the comedy network, but not a lot of women in this type of network. So tell us a little, that's what you do. You do comedy. You also do senior real estate, right?
I do both.
For seniors. Okay, that's a specialty. But today we're mostly concentrating on how did you end up in comedy and what kind of challenges did you face to get there? So give me a little brief bio.
Um, I never, ever, ever thought I would be in comedy. I If someone would have told me I would have been a comedian, I would have told them they were crazy. I actually got started on with comedy on a kind of on a dare. Um, that came from real estate. Like you mentioned, Melinda, I am a real estate agent, and there was a contest in my office that was last realtor standing, I think they were calling it. And my fellow realtors were all saying, "You should do that. You should do that." And I'm like, "Why? You're funny. You're so funny." I don't know. I might be funny in the office, but I'm certainly not funny on a stage. You know, like
But
you
you
guys are
are, you didn't
crazy.
know that yet.
No, I didn't know that. Like I really thought they were nuts, and they kept hounding me and hounding me. Like, a few days went by, a week went by, and they're like, "We really think that you should be the person from our office to do this." Well, then I found out there was like a $100 prize. So money
Money
kind of
talks.
money talks. And I was like, what the heck? I mean, whatever, I'll give it a try. So they hired us a coach, but he really wasn't a coach. Like, I mean, I think he'd been on stage a couple times, but he was my coach, and I met with him and we got some jokes together. Like I wrote a little bit of material, I guess, and I did that. I did the show, and let me tell you, it was terrifying. It 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 still terrifies me thinking about it because, like, for 3 or 4 days before the show, I was a nervous wreck. Like I was taking
Sure.
Imodium, like left and right. Like,
A lot of time on the jewel potty, it sounds like.
yeah, because it was terrifying. I mean, the thought of going up there. Well, here's the thing too. I mean, like so many of my friends wanted to come. It was great to have all this support. I think I sold 50 tickets.
You don't want to screw up in front of your friends.
Yes, you don't, because if nobody knows you, it doesn't matter.
Right.
But when there's all these people thinking, like they're supporting you, but there's 50 of your friends, and then you're up there in front of all your colleagues as
Hmm.
well.
Hmm.
So it was the most terrifying experience in my life. And actually, I drank before I got on stage, which was the biggest mistake I ever made too. Um,
Well, a
but
lot of
anyway,
comedians drink before they go on stage, so
and I've never drank again because I don't even drink, and that's probably was the mistake I
yeah,
made.
that'll get you.
So, I'm sorry, long story short, I made it through that, and I took second place out of like 9 people.
It's good.
But I never wanted to do it again. It was so much pressure I felt, and so stressful. And I thought, why do people do this? Why do they want people looking at them? And
It's like singing and anything time you're on stage,
yes,
right? You got to
yes.
wonder, why am I up here doing this when I feel this terrible before I get up there? But when you get the laughs, makes you feel good, though.
Well, it did, but I mean, again, like I never thought I was going to do anything with it. I mean, it was a contest at work. That was the end of it. And it wasn't until maybe 3 years had gone by, and people were still talking about it at the office. People were always telling everybody how funny I was. And then it was weird because all these people, all my friends too, were like, "Well, you really are funny." And people from high school, you were hilarious in high school. And I'm like, I just didn't even realize
And
that, I
think about
guess.
Well, but life kind of helped you move forward. So you were an Avon lady. We had a conversation, right? And then
Yep.
you were at Avon and you were just trying to make some extra money, cover your family, right? Your
Yeah, I
kids.
was a stay-at-home mom doing Avon. Had 4 kids, right? And
Then what happened that made you change for a different job and then get into the comedy?
um, so I was pretty successful with Avon. I really was doing well with Avon, and I had this neighbor who bought a lot of Avon from me, and she was having this romance party. And I'm like, what is a romance party? And she's like, well, lotions and lingerie and maybe some sex toys. And I said, oh, no, 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 not my thing, not going. Don't want, I'm like, how about I just order a candle from you and we'll call it a day? And she's like, no, you have to come. I need so many people. I'll get free merchant. But you know how that is, when they
Oh,
have home parties.
yeah.
So I went to the party, and the representative who was having the party, um, she was called a surprise lady. She was in a business suit. She was so professional, and she was giving her spiel about how she makes so much money doing this. And I'm watching all these ladies around me buying all this lingerie and lotion and
Stuff, yeah.
candles. It's very expensive. And I'm thinking to myself, I have to sell a lot of lipstick to
Equal that.
a lot of Skin So Soft to equal what this lady's doing up here. So again, money was always a motivator for me. I talked to her because it was such a fun party. She was fun. She was making a ton of money. So we talked, and I went home and I said to my husband, I think maybe I could do this. And I think it would be like double or triple what I'm making in Avon. So I did. I signed up to be a surprise lady. I did that for 6 years, and they were in-home parties, like I said, for women. And they used to say in our business, and in that business, money is funny, and funny is money. And I was pretty funny because I would be in front of these ladies, and we would laugh about our husbands and tell jokes about relationships. And like I said, it was all women. I loved it. I absolutely loved being in front of people and talking and laughing and feeling good about myself. And everybody had a good time. And I did that for 6 years. I was the Ohio State sales leader. I made really good money. Like I said, I really enjoyed that. But then I was getting divorced. And in that business, you have to be motivated to book parties. Like you have to go and do parties and be motivated to book parties. And I was going through the motions. I wasn't funny anymore.
Oh, you left.
So I left.
But while you were there, you discovered how funny you were because when you and I had a conversation, you had to make fun to get through the parties initially, and you wanted everybody to have a good time.
Yes, I used to book. They would tell me how fun. Oh, I want to do a party with you. You're so fun. I want you to come to my house. You're so fun. You're so fun. We're having so much fun. So I did know at that point, again, but comedy would never, I never even thought, would have thought about comedy. I was happy being a little, romance lady. And it wasn't until, like I said, it's
Yeah.
funny how my paths just keep like mixing,
Mhm.
like they just keep coming full circle because I then got a really bad divorce. My ex-husband went to Florida and didn't look back, and I was by myself raising 4 kids after 17 years of marriage. And that's when I became a real estate agent because I had to make some serious money.
Mhm.
And I had a great mentor and a friend who brought me into real estate. And it wasn't until that contest where and so when that contest came about too, I thought, yeah, I could do it. I guess I'm funny. And so that's how that all came full circle.
You never know what road you're going on and where it's going to take you.
Right. And it's still taken me to places that I'm surprised. Like
But you
I
see, one thing I like about what you are saying and putting out there is there's a lot of women out there, whether they want to go into comedy or not, it's not the issue. It's you still plugging through, finding a way to make more money, paying attention to what's around you, right? To meet the challenge of taking care of yourself and the kids. And look what
It's so
happened.
it's so true. Like I tell my kids too that I'm tired all the time. And they're like, "Why are you're always tired?" And it's not even like that I'm tired, like I want to go to sleep. It's like a mental tired because I've been figuring things out for like 30 years. Like it seems I'm reinventing myself. Like in my 40s, I was a realtor, and in my 50s, I became a comedian. And that's you're right. I mean, I've had a lot of obstacles. I still have a lot of obstacles, but it's never too late if you realize the things that are around you. And let me tell you, being a comedian, that's not an easy thing because there's not a lot of comedians and there's barely any women comedians. So when I made up my mind, like maybe this is something I'm going to. So if you want to go back to that story, how did I get back to being a comedian? One day I was just like, you know what? I'm funny. And I really kind of enjoyed that, even though I was taking Imodium and drinking and I was like, you know, and you kind of believe if people keep telling you that you're good at something, maybe you are. If other people keep saying that this is maybe an avenue, that I need to explore. So that the challenge became, well, how do you explore it? What comedians do you know, Nancy? Like, how does one be a comedian?
Well, and a female comedian versus a male comedian, totally different. Expectations are different from people. So it's hard. I'm sure it was hard to find a mentor for that was a female comedian.
Well, I got very lucky because there was actually one of the realtors in that contest. I remember him saying that he had a real coach. Remember, I said there was some kind of coach?
Hmm.
He wasn't a coach. But this particular gentleman told me, there's a guy who runs workshops, who helps comedians, reach out to him. So I thought, what, why not? So I sent him an email and he is
Coach.
legitimate comedy coach.
Yeah.
And I started, and what's great about him is he's just not a coach that helps you with your material. He has books. He's written a lot of books about how to be a working comic. And that's what interested me because it wasn't this passion that, oh, I want to go be funny. It was like, real estate is a commission. I'm on commission. And I've always had a side hustle. And I needed another side hustle because I used to do private home health care with seniors. And I had still was doing that, but I wanted to do something else. But I wanted to make money. I mean, again, I'm in my 50s. This wasn't let me go live my long lost dream of being on stage. This was like, I still need to make money. So when I heard that this guy was he helped people make money in comedy, I started working with him. His name is Dave Swenson, and I plug him because he is my mentor, and he got me started. He told me what I needed to do and how difficult it was. And you're exactly right, Melinda. There's really no female comedians. It's it's tough. And
They're far and few
male,
in between.
well, and it's yes, it's a male dominated industry. The comedians are male, but here's the other thing. Most men, and I can say this to be true because it's true because they say it to me. So many men come up to me and say, I don't think women are funny, but you're funny. And I'm like, it used to bother me when men would say that. Like, because, I'm hilarious. So I don't know why you don't find, why would you not think that women are funny? We're funny. But that's exactly what so many said to me. I didn't find women funny. Well, and again, maybe it's just because there are no women. There's not that many women comedians to listen to.
Right. And I mean, you know me, I'm at the comedy place all the time, and I know the people in the area. And I've been looking for a female comic to add to some things I do for like the Alzheimer's Foundation and different events. And they were either dirty, their content was dirty, or they weren't funny.
Yes.
And that
And,
that's a tough one.
well, and it's a shame that so many comedians, and it's not just the females, males too, they think they have to be dirty.
Hmm.
Like they think that they can drop that, or swear, and it's not funny. Like you're saying too, it's not funny. And it's never been me. I mean, I'm not you know, with comedy, you have to be authentic. You can't have somebody write your material because you can't speak for somebody else. You have to be yourself. Now, do I bounce jokes off of people? Yeah, even my dog, if he'll listen. You know what I mean? Like, you want
They're the best
people,
listeners. They
you know,
love you no matter what you do.
right. But you, oh, geez, I say so much, I forget where I'm at here.
No,
Um,
I have a question for you, Nancy.
sure.
Um, my husband and I go to the comedy club pretty frequently, and he's always looking for female comics. And he'll go out on YouTube and he'll check people out, and he'll say to me, "Oh, you're going to like this one. You know, there's some innuendos, but she's really not dirty." And then we go to the comedy club, and I'm sitting there, thinking, what did you listen to that you said that she wasn't? Okay, because the very young ones tend to think
Oh,
that they have to use every four-letter word
yep.
and have to almost demonstrate every sexual antic. And the last one we saw, I turned to my husband and I said, "Does this really excite you? Does this turn you on?" And he goes, "No." He said,
Mm-mm.
"When we go home, I'm going to show you the YouTube." And we watched the YouTube. Now, if she had been like that, I would have enjoyed the show. So there are people that want to go to a dirty show,
Sure.
but I think for the most part, we just want to come and laugh. We want to recognize that, oh, Nancy, I feel the same way too. Yeah.
Yeah. But see, that's the problem women have too, is I think they feel that they have to be dirty. They have to be one of the guys, but you're not one of the guys. And the
Mhm.
thing is, which I've never cared, because again, I'm not dirty and I'm not going to ever be, and I'm not going to try to be, because that people know that that's not me. I'm also a real estate agent and a businesswoman who understands that, this is also a business, and people are not going to hire me to come in to do to senior centers or fundraisers if I'm dirty. So it's easy for me because I'm not dirty and I don't want to be. But it's funny you say that, Karen, because I've tried to mentor some women, especially the younger ones, and they don't want to work with me because they're talking about getting high and being dirty and sexual and see, and that's hard for, not only is that, like I said, they don't want to work with me, but it's really hard for me to find my niche, because young people think I'm like a grandma, like this goody two shoe grandma. Males don't. Well, but see, I think that it's all changed for me now, because I am one of the boys, but I'm taken seriously now.
Yeah.
Very, very. I'm happy to say very seriously.
I can vouch for that. Well, you
Well, and it took
produced.
it took years. It's taken me. I'm almost 4 years in.
Mhm.
And can I talk about the challenge I had when I started?
Absolutely.
The challenge is when I finally, made the decision I wanted to do comedy, wanted to give this a try. Like I said, but where do you go? Okay, now I've got the coach, I've got the 5 minute set. We've been working together for like 6 months. And he said, "Nancy, the point of you working with me is to get on stage." Again, I was still kind of terrified to get on stage, but I'm going, well, what stages are there? Where are the stages? Like, how do I do this? So I actually kind of fell into it because I had a real estate connection who had a friend who owned a bar. And that my real estate connection said, they have entertainment there. Why don't you hit him up and see if you could start a comedy show? Well, I'm thinking, okay, but I don't know the first thing. I don't know how to run a comedy show. I don't even know how to tell a joke. I'm going to run a show. But again, I took that risk of like, well, if I get this show, then it'll put me on stage, right? I'll
Mhm.
always be on stage
Yep.
and I'll meet people. And that's what my coach said, just get going. Well, I never look back, because I started that show almost 4 years ago and it ran for over a year. And from that run, I still run 3 every month. I've had a few that I ran a year and quit. But I flipped the script, meaning I knew that people were not going to just book me and nobody was calling me and nobody was taking me seriously. But if I started running these shows, because guess what? The more shows I did and they were good shows, then everybody wanted to be on my show. So all those guys that I used to see and think they were like comedy gods, like they never talked to me.
Never tell them they're comedy gods. Don't ever tell
Yeah.
them. I'll never hear
Now,
the end of it.
oh my gosh. And that's so funny too, because I did. I thought that they were like, I put them up here. And now I'm like, I'm sharing the stage with you and you're hiring me and I'm hiring you. And it is the greatest accomplishment I had because I really had to work hard, like I said,
Yeah.
to prove myself. Because at first, too, people were like, "Well, she's got a good mind, and she's a good booker. She's a booker. She's running rooms, which I am. But here's the thing: I'm funny too, and all that stage time that I got from running all those shows, they were my shows. I could give myself 5 minutes or 15 minutes or whatever I wanted to do. That set me up with a lot of practice. It was a lot of hard work and a lot of practice. But now I'm starting to step away from running as many shows and I'm getting booked and I'm getting paid pretty well. Not enough to stop selling houses yet, but
Get there.
Do you
That'll be a
practice
goal.
do you practice your comedy with your clients when you're showing them homes?
oh my gosh, they come to my shows. And that's why so many people say to me, how come you don't talk about more real estate in your set? Well, because they're there at my shows. And not
Can't
that I
really
make a
beat that.
habit of talking about them, but there are situations, you're working with people and there's all kinds of stories as realtors that I can tell from working. When you work with people.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
so they will say to me, how come you don't talk about it? And I'm like, well, I'm just afraid who might be listening.
True. Very true. Well, you've done something unique too. Tell us about the coffee cake and comedy.
Oh, I love coffee cake and comedy. Um, so as a senior real estate specialist, I work a lot with attorneys. I do a lot of estates, and the attorneys are handling the estates. And I was meeting a lot of attorneys and getting some business, but I realized that I needed to get into the senior centers. Like I needed to meet more seniors. Okay. So my team, which is called the Sold Sisters, there's 3 of us, we started calling the senior senators and centers and asking them if we could come do a real estate presentation. I'm a senior real estate specialist and how we help seniors downsize. And we've got an attorney and we've got somebody that can help move them. And we've got, all these different people, representatives on our panel, which we thought this was just the greatest idea ever that we put together this panel to help seniors. Every one of them that we called said, we've had a realtor, we've had a lawyer, we have a downsizer. Click, click. So we're like, well, how do we get into these senior centers? And so a couple of weeks had gone by. We kept saying we have to be different. We have to be different because they've had all this. They've done
Right.
all this.
Right.
So it dawned on me, why don't I do free comedy? Tell them that we'll come in with our panel and then I'll do a free show. Oh my gosh. I'm in every one of them. I am like when we called them back and said that we would do a free comedy show. So this brainstorm idea came about in maybe March or April of last year, and I think we've done 10 or 12 at least. And so it's coffee, cake, and comedy where we bring the cake because who doesn't like cake? Okay, right? So we bring the cake, and the seniors have they supply the coffee, and I put together a panel, like I said, of the attorneys and different people, and they all talk about what they do for like 5 minutes max. And then I do like a 20, 25-minute comedy show, which is totally unrelated to any of that. And it's been wonderful. They get the information. The seniors are getting all this information that is very helpful to them, that they need and appreciate. And then they eat their cake and they laugh their butts off and everybody's happy. And the best thing that's come of that too is that a lot of those senior centers have booked me for private entertainment just to come in, without my soul sisters and just do comedy.
Right.
So I am really proud I'm proud of that because it's another thing that I can say that I figured out, if that makes sense.
Well, for me, because I know you not on the podcast, I know you otherwise, you have taken numerous challenges and found a way to go over them and get what you need. And that's very impressive. And it's not easy to do. So I commend you on doing that. And the things that you've done make people laugh and feel good. And that's even better. It's a bigger bonus. But I think it's important, anybody watching the show today, to see that this is a woman who started here and then got it thrown a curveball and then changed the next direction. And you've been able to do that and do it successfully.
I think we need to realize too that there are always opportunities or ways around it.
Mhm.
And you have to you have to have the support, and if someone's not supporting you with what you want to do, then and that was a tough one for me because my fiance is very quiet and he thinks comedy's great, but he's not really a comedy person, so to say. And he's, my best friend and partner, but I don't talk to him a lot about it because he doesn't understand it. So again, having the support of friends and my kids too, they're like, Mom, we don't want to hear your jokes anymore.
Tell them somewhere else.
We're not coming to your shows anymore, Mom. We could like recite your jokes, okay? Like, and it's funny when you first start, everybody wants to come, right? You're a comedian. I mean, everybody thinks they give you so much credit for getting on that stage. They think it's great you're doing this. Oh my gosh, I could never do that. Oh, it's just great that you did it. Well, that wasn't enough for me because I wanted to do this. I wanted to be good. It wasn't like, oh, I'm just going to try this. This is like I made my mind up and I want to make money with this. And in the beginning, everybody did come and my friends and family were great because they were like, "Oh, you're so funny, you're so funny." But here's the thing, nobody else was telling me I was funny. Like people would smile at me at shows, but they didn't come up to me and say that was the hardest part. You want to talk probably like the biggest challenge for me? One of them was I'd be at this great show with these other comedians and I would be honored that I was asked. Okay, I was the host or I was asked, and that was a big deal, and it is for anybody getting started. But the thing was, after I would do my 3 minutes or 5 minutes, then we had all these really good features and headliners, and the show would be over, and people would run up to them and go, "Oh, you're so funny. Oh my gosh, where are you? Where are you playing next? Do you have a card?" And they would look at me and go, uh, "Oh yeah, you're funny too."
Oh,
I wanted to I wanted to cry. Like, I thought, couldn't you wait to talk to this funny person when I went to the bathroom? Or couldn't you send them an email? You have to and the best one was but I'll never forget this moment when I thought I did really well. And I did. I did have a good set. And the guy who was running the show, he said, he thanked the other two comedians. Oh my gosh. Oh, we all laughed so hard. Oh, they were so funny. And he called them out by name and then he looked at me and he said, and um thanks, Barbara.
oh, oh.
Barbara. At least he could have given me like a hot, sexy name or something. I wanted to crawl in a corner, like it's so hard to get up there. It is, and to do your thing, and then you think you did well. But here's what you got to realize too with comedy: you can't compare yourself to other people. We're all on different our own comedy journey, so to say. And you're not going to be as good as someone who's been doing it for 5 years or 10 years. And I am now teaching people that when they come up to me and tell me, you have this great stage presence. you're a natural. You're so comfortable. It took years to get comfortable.
Right.
Years and years of practicing in front of the mirror and talking into my pencil and talking to the dog and running by jokes, which I still do all of that, you know. So
Well, you're
it
always still nervous. I mean, the comedians that,
ugh,
I know, I'm in that group.
in the
They've been
group.
doing it over 30 years, and they still all get nervous when they get on stage. The day you
Yeah,
need to worry is when you're not nervous. If you're not nervous, there's something else going
there's
on.
something wrong. I think
Yeah.
it's a different level of nervousness now. Like I'm not going to throw myself off the 480 bridge if they forget my name,
Yeah.
because there's another show tomorrow or next week, and you can have a really bad show. It's like life. You can have a bad day, but then you dust yourself off and you go out next week and you do another show and someone is coming up to you and said, "Oh my gosh, you were so funny. Oh, you made me forget about all my problems. I
Mhm.
laughed so hard." That's like the best feeling. That's why I do it,
Mhm.
really, is when people come up to me and they're like, I'm going through, I'm sick or my husband lost his job and I didn't want to come to this tonight, but I came anyway and I just forgot about all my problems. And then they Facebook friend you, and I'm like low key famous. I really am. Like I've got followers.
Tell
It's
you,
it's
coming
the
to
best.
comedy can make all the difference for somebody's health because I'd have chemotherapy, and Tim would take me the next day, and I would go because I needed the laughter. They always talk about laughter being the best medicine, right?
Yes.
And so when you're out doing the coffee cake and comedy, you don't know what those seniors are going through that day. I mean, a lot of us seniors have physical ailments. Maybe they lost a spouse, a
Uh,
sister. You don't know. So I think it's so important to bring that to the senior centers. I do.
they I love that more than it's my favorite audience are the seniors
Mhm.
because I think they need it the most. Like you're saying, I think seniors are forgotten about. Like when we do fundraisers for it's like sick kids all the time. Not the only thing, but or someone battling cancer or kidney disease. And there's so many people in assisted living and nursing homes that no one comes to see them. It's
No,
this it's the saddest thing in the world. So when I can go there and get a chuckle out of them, and they love to talk. I don't people don't come to see not most, but Melinda, a lot of them don't have visitors or family, and
absolutely.
they're just going to laugh anyway. They're just going to smile at you because they're happy that you're there paying attention to them. I mean, it's sad in a lot of ways, but for me, it's joyful because I can if I can just put a smile on their face, or they can talk about the good old days because they love to talk, and that's what's kind of cool too because I'm starting to almost get away from a lot of my so-called set, and I just let them talk about things,
Right.
which we laugh about the stuff they talk about. Like I'll say, "Well, do you remember your first date?" And they love again. Nobody listens to them. So
Right.
it's really what my goal is now is to do more senior events. I mean, I'm calling myself a corporate comedian because I would like to do more fundraisers and more events. Um, I know I look, 25, but I'm really not. So being out in the bars at night,
Yeah.
performing, and here's the thing: selling houses is a full time. You're on the clock all the time.
Right.
It's great because you don't punch a clock for somebody. But if you want to be successful in real estate, you're working all the time.
Mhm.
So then when I get done with this whole house thing, I have to go to a bar where there's people drinking and not getting their chicken wings on time and mad about that and mad over they don't like some of the comedians. And I'm
Or
like,
just having a conversation in the middle of everything that's going on.
oh, how could I forget that? Yeah,
Yeah.
right, right, right. And you're competing with their conversation at the bar. Yeah, it's tough. Comedy is really tough.
Well, I
But
think any kind of entertainment in those situations is going to be tough.
yes,
My son was into, he still is into music, but he doesn't do it right now. But back in 2018 and 2019, he was going to all the bars and just playing and singing. And he'd walk out at the end of the night and he'd say, yeah, I've got tips, but nobody really listened to me. Nobody told me if they really liked what I was doing or not. But I saw it in the tip jar. And so, yeah, I went home with $50 or $75. And at first, my comment was, well, hey, enjoy the money. But I realized he was doing it for the money, but he was doing it because he loved it and he wanted the recognition for it. And
yes,
so when he stopped, I felt badly for him, but he said, I'll pick it up at some other time. But right now, I don't want to play in the bars where people aren't listening. I want to play
exactly.
in a music venue. And it was like, oh, that makes sense. And so that's got to be hard for you too. If you're playing in a comedy club, you have a better chance of people sitting there and listening rather
For the
than
most
just
part.
in a bar scene.
Oh, the clubs are so much different. You're exactly right, Karen. They're there to laugh. They're there to be quiet. They're there for the show. They're not there for the alcohol. They're not there, to eat. They're there to laugh and enjoy the show, and they're quiet. But the problem too with, for myself with the clubs, there's not that many clubs either.
Not
You know,
anymore.
they're yeah, and they're also like an hour away. And again, when you're, my age and you've worked all day, are you going to drive an hour at night to, get 10 minutes for $20?
Yeah.
I could do it all day long. I was doing it, and I'm like, like you're saying about your son, you want to do it, but it's not worth it sometimes.
Yeah.
And, and I kind of pick, it's nice now at this point with my comedy journey that I can pick and choose where I want to go and what I want to do. Um, and I hope women or even men that are listening to this realize that comedy it can be done. It can be, but you have to go after it. You have to go after it, and you have to be able to get over the challenges. Um, and I feel like, geez, if I could do it at 50, people can do it.
Yeah.
People, if you can do it. And I hope they reach out because I love to mentor people. I love to help people. I've always been that kind of person. I love to talk about comedy. Well, and especially women, of course, but I would help anybody that wanted to get into this. Um, I wanted to say something else about my seniors, but I forgot what it was. It might come
Well,
back.
you said you did some home help too for seniors, so you definitely are a person who's out there and wants to make them feel better and take care of them.
I just lost my last client about 2 years ago. Um, I worked at an assisted living for a while. Well, I was a nursing assistant, and then I went to a facility, and I actually just about got fired from there because I talked too much. Imagine that. I was an activities coordinator, and I never got them to the activity because I would go into their room and they would be like, "Can you find my glasses? Honey, can you look in that drawer? Can you call my sister for me? I can't dial the phone." So here I am doing all these things and not getting them to the activity.
Yeah.
So they said, "Nancy, like, we don't want to fire you because people really like you, but you're not doing your job." So that's when I went into private home health care, where I just had one lady that I could focus on or one man. And I love doing that. And that actually taught me a lot about because a lot of times I was there before they had to sell their house. I wasn't a realtor at that time. I just
Right.
knew how difficult it was for seniors to give up driving or give their independence or have to move
So
after 50 years of raising their kids and their family in this house. Now they have to go to
Children
this place.
to a facility. Yeah.
So that's why I really got into being a senior real estate specialist because I realized what that meant, and I worked with a lot of families. I mean, I saw the siblings arguing, and where
Oh,
mom
yeah.
should go, and it was heartbreaking. And so now, it's a great thing to be the coffee cake and comedy is great because I feel like I give them the information, like I said, that they need. And even if they don't need it now, I'm like, you know what? You put my card on your fridge because you might need it in a few years.
Right.
So it's like they get this useful information and then I make them laugh. So, and like I said, then we eat cake. So it's like win, win, win all the way around.
Right. Right. Absolutely. So where can people see you perform? So you talked about a couple of the bars that you still work with, and how can they reach out and come see you?
I always tell people to go on Facebook. I'm always posting my shows. I run the 3 every month. So I'm always at Pit Stop in Parma, Eastland Inn in Berea, and the Cleveland Winery in Old Brooklyn are the 3 that I run. But then I usually do two two or three coffee, cake, and comedies that people are always invited to for real estate information and comedy. And then I probably have about 4 or 5 bookings a month too. So I'm really everywhere, like East Side, West Side, you know. So all you have to do is go on Facebook because I am always
Okay.
posting. And I have a YouTube channel where I have some clips and I'm finally getting better at that. That's another challenge. Can I talk about what other challenge? Social
Absolutely.
media.
Social media. Well, you and I talked about that today.
Oh,
We weren't brought up on social media. We have to learn it.
well, and that's the thing too. Everybody's like, "Well, do you have a website, Nancy? Can we go see you, Nancy?" And I'm like, yeah, well, I'm like, why don't you just come to a show? I'm really funny. You'll just see me at the show." But so many people want to check you out. They want to see even
Mm.
people that hire me, they want to see what I'm like. So I finally got smart and hired somebody to take care of all that for me. So I'm happy to say that I have a comedy email. I have I have a Facebook page. I have a YouTube channel because I had to get with the times. I did. And that's another challenge of being older. You don't know how to do those things, nor do you have time to do them. So pay somebody. So
Yeah.
you can always find me. And I even tell people, send me a private message too. I'll answer you back. So,
Well,
The
we'll have that info in the show notes, right, Karen?
Yes. And as a comedian or anybody in business today, when you're an individual, you do more than be a comedian. You're your manager, you're your social media person. You run, you know, you run in between so many different things. Um, I had to sort of shut down for a couple of weeks and I had emails from people saying, you haven't responded to me. We haven't seen a new show this year. What is going on? And it's like, I'm one person. I
yeah.
can only do so much. And my first reaction was I was getting mad. It was like, hey, I posted on Facebook, I'm taking a time out. You didn't read it. It's not my fault. And I realized that there are people who expect that you have this whole entourage working for you, but you don't.
And you know what? That's probably even my that right there is probably my biggest challenge because I, I have so many people too that want to pick my brain about comedy, and people like you say that are messaging me, and the people that want to see me that are messaging me, and people that are just proud of me that are messaging me. And like you said, I don't have time. I'm doing that at like 6 in the morning, answering people, and you have to be when you are in business for yourself. In both of my businesses, I'm really in for
You're it.
myself.
Mhm.
You're it. And if you're not promoting yourself and constantly, no, I always say, no one's knocking on my door, come sell my house.
Yeah.
It, you
Right.
know, and it's the same with comedy. Yes, I get booked and I get called, but a lot of times, I'm like everybody else. I'm sending out emails and asking, and here's a clip. And yeah, you're running the show. And let's not forget, you have to still be funny.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you have to constantly write. And sometimes writing, it's like writing a term paper. I don't wanna. I was telling Melinda earlier, I'm not always funny. Like you have off days. Oh, and that's my favorite. Well, you're a comedian. Tell me a joke. And I'm like, I'm not on the clock right now. Come to a show. I'll be funny then.
I
Yeah.
love
You're also not a one-liner person. That's a one-liner or one of those story type. comedians,
Yes.
and that's not comedy today.
No, it's not. And people don't understand that. It's just like, I guess, if you're a doctor and people want to tell you their ailments all the time, it's kind of the same with comedy. Everybody thinks that you're a laugh a minute. And we as or any performer, we get tired. We still have to go grocery shopping. A lot of times, as you can see, I don't have a problem talking. My throat hurts. Like I
Yeah.
get tired sometimes.
Well, and you get sick and things happen. I mean, it happens to
Life.
everybody. But Karen, I will say people missed you. Just remember that. So that's the good part. Even if they didn't read, they did miss you enough to inquire, which I
Well,
think is great.
and I think, all of us who are doing individual work like this, you know, we know that we're doing what we love to do and what other people are extracting from that. But there are times, and I'm sure, and I can see it in your face as you're talking, Nancy. It's like, could you leave me alone for just 5 minutes? Okay. I just don't want to be funny right now, or I don't want to talk about being funny. And, um, you know, like Melinda, I have a number of friends who are comedians, and I was talking to one the other day. We were having this very serious conversation about something. And I said, could you just say something funny? And he goes, are you being serious? And I was, because I had gotten so
Yeah.
drawn into this really heavy conversation. And then after I said it, I thought, I'm sorry, because that's not what we were talking about. And just because you're a comedian doesn't mean you have something funny to say right now.
Well, at least you realized it, Karen, though. You
Yeah.
got it, because some people are almost offended by that. Like, you're just always supposed to be on, and you're not. I mean, actually, when there's a week that goes by that I don't have to perform, I'm happy because I need to reset, you
Right. You
know?
need a little rest and pull yourself back together.
Yeah. I want to share one thing that's really, I think, is really made my life as a comedian. I was at the auto show last year. Remember, like I said, your friends and family are always telling you you're funny because they support you and they're going to tell you you did good even when you didn't. I was walking around the auto show again I was with my fiance, and this guy comes over to me and he goes, "You're a comedian. I saw you at such and such. You're so funny." And I went, I was hitting my fiance. I'm like, it, I will never forget that moment. And now I make a joke out of that. I'm trying to work a set out of that because I don't know how people are famous. Like, how do people really do that? Like, they can't even go to the auto show or go to dinner or go. But I will take that moment the rest of my life and I was so glad that my fiance was there. Because again, I was like, just,
It doesn't have the same meaning if you have to explain it. He had to be there.
you had to be there. But it was like, so, because he stopped me and I was like, what's this guy looking at me for? Like, he was looking at me and then he kind of tapped me and I'm like, what?
Touching me.
You're touching me and everything. But I'm like, I will never, ever forget that moment. And the moment when people do, tell you that you're funny and you made their day or their week or whatever it is. So that's really why I do it. I really secretly hope that Saturday Night Live calls me one day, but I am not planning on it. So if I could just do what I'm doing and make people laugh and be able to make additional money, um, which helps me when my real estate is slower, then I'm good. But so I'm sorry that I'm going on and on.
No,
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 that's
no.
beautiful.
I'm very sure that the listeners are going to be thrilled because you gave a lot of good information out there and you showed them that you're a real person, right? So you have good days, bad days, and people don't think about that. So I think you had a lot of important things to say today.
Well, and real quick, that's an important thing to say about comedy too. So many people say, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. Be you. Be you, because there is funny all over the place. And people love the one thing I hear the most about my comedy is it's relatable. It's about dating when you're older and short. I'm only 4'10". I know I look real tall in the podcast, but
You
I am
do.
really, really short. So I do a lot of short jokes and dating and a lot about my adult. I'm very close to my children who are all adults, but they're the ones, Karen, that I say, don't call me. Okay. There's four of you and one of me. And I already talked to your brother, your sister, and your other sister twice. Don't call. So I talk about that stuff and people can relate to that. So when people say to me, I'm not funny, meaning, they're saying, I don't think I'm really funny. You may be funnier than you think. Just
Right.
talk about what you know, so don't ever,
Somebody
if you're
will
thinking,
relate.
yeah, don't ever think if you're a comedian, like you have to be so funny. Just make it funny about what you do and what you know and what you observe. And there's coaches, there's people out there that will help you. There's writing workshops. I mean, that's why I would tell people too, like, don't be afraid to get a hold of me because I know everybody and I will help people get
That
into
is
the business.
wonderful.
Well, thank you, Barbara. No, just kidding. Nancy,
That was wonderful.
for being on the show today. We really appreciate your time.
Listen, Melinda, it's Barbie. Okay.
Oh, yeah, Barbie.
Ooh, okay.
Thank you. It was a blast.
Thanks.
Thank you.
We'll all come out and see you in person.
Please.
And
I
we
would
can all
I
come
would
out
love
and
I would love that. I would love that. Thank you.
have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.